Honourable Member for St James North.
The Speaker, it is with great pleasure that I join this debate here today on the vesting of state land at the Garrison in one of the 19 umbrella organizations of the Barbados Council for the Disabled, the Autism Association. This has, as the Honourable Minister for People's Empowerment and Elder Affairs just said, taken too long in coming. As the Honourable Member said, in 2020, because we were in Parliament at Worthing at the time, the President, then President of the Autism Association, and still President, sir, and his name has been called Mr. Frederick Frank Johnson. We don't recognize strangers, but it is an honor to have him and some of his members here today, would have circulated to all members of Parliament, elected and Senate, a document calling for this building to do essentially basic life skills for people with autism. And that is a fundamental part, sir, of treating towards people with autism, giving them basic life skills, increasing their social skills, sir, their ability to deal with finances, ability to be able to cook, to look after themselves, sir. All of these are basic skills which people without a disability and even without autism in some cases take for granted, but which are major challenges for people with disability, for people with autism and people who are on the spectrum, whether you're a child or an adult, because you never recover from autism. You have autism, or you're on the spectrum when you are young, when you are a child, before you go into school, and you have that throughout your life, sir. So we have taken too long as a parliament, as a government, for this day to come. That is the truth. And it was drawn to our attention, sir, and I commend the cabinet for agreeing or for, in fact, directing that we go back out to the public as we did between mid-July and the end of August with 3 town hall meetings and more public outreach, sir, on radio as well, and meeting with some stakeholders, sir. And it was at the first town hall meeting that we had, first of 3, that the president of the Autism Association drew to our attention that they hadn't got this building yet, after cabinet had agreed since August last year that this building be vested in them. So the first thing I want to say, sir, because we also have to come out with how we go forward, and it has to be a case, as I said yesterday, sir, where perhaps the Senior Minister for Infrastructure designates someone who deals with, on a daily basis, with seeing issues through as they come from cabinet into reality on the floor of this parliament, and then implemented in terms of buildings and vesting properties within associations and within the private sector. Because as the Honourable Member for St. Michael South said, it can't be government. Government can't do everything. We need the private sector, we need the NGOs, we need civil society to help us move this country forward, not only in terms of people with disabilities, but in terms of all categories of people in our country who are socially and economically vulnerable. So this debate gives us an opportunity, of course, to widen it. It's not only the investiture of a building to the Autism Association, sir, and the Autism Association has to be commended. So I, like the Honourable Minister for People Empowerment, attended their annual general meeting three or four Saturdays ago, sir. And, you know, it's a case, obviously, where the parents can't leave the children at home. So the children are there too. And they're being what children with autism are. And that is the reality. You know, one of the problems in Barbados, sir, is that people, Barbadians, who have never experienced a close relative, a child, in my case, a sibling with a disability, can't start to comprehend the life of either a person with disability, because they don't have any, or being a caregiver of a person with disability. And I suppose that is one of the reasons why too many people, even those who claim that they're Christians, sir, treat people the way they do. So this is the first issue, sir, that people in this country have to learn to treat people with disabilities better. We say we are a caring society, we say we are God-fearing, we say that we are Christian. But that can only be demonstrated in terms of words. It has to be placed in our daily living of people, sir. And a society has to be measured, as is often said, by how it treats its most vulnerable, by how it treats the people with disabilities, sir. Mahatma Gandhi said that years ago, and that is absolutely correct. And this government, sir, has, over the last 16 months especially, with the establishment of the National Advisory Committee to improve the lives of persons with disabilities, which I was given the honor to chair, sir, has shown that it is willing to take a firm leading role on this. It means continuous public engagement, and therefore resources have to be put in. Someone needs to come to work, as I've told the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, every day, certainly within his ministry, but in other ministries too, to deal with issues that affect people with disabilities on a daily basis, sir. Because I can tell you, sir, 2 days doesn't pass but for someone in this country, all over this country, to call me someone with a disability or a parent of a person with a disability, to call me to try to resolve or guide them with some issues, sir. I mean, in many cases, I can guide them as to what to do, where to go, how to approach their challenge, sir. But clearly, I am not in a position, sir, with the resources of a ministry of people's empowerment to assist everyone, sir. Someone needs to be on the ground every day dealing with it. We've had the impetus, sir, over, as I said, the establishment of the committee, the recent public outreach, and it needs to go on in terms of someone coming day to day to deal with these issues. I know that the Ministry of People's Empowerment is working on this, is also working on the Department of Family Services, in which disability issues would be incorporated some way. I believe they might be near finalization of the entity that will be formed, and whether there'll be a continuous standing committee on the issue of disability, sir. But this is too important an issue for us not to deal with and treat. As the Honourable Member for St. Michael South said, the last census, and it is generally accepted, in 2010, underestimated the amount of people with disabilities in Barbados, put that figure at 11,500, sir. For some reason, we don't have the results of the most recent population census as yet, which took place last year, sir. But again, those in authority in the statistical departments have already told us that they fear that there will again be an underestimation of the number of people with disabilities in this country, sir. And disability, sir, is widely defined, sir. And also, we have, it's an international definition, but we also include temporary disability, sir. And we know that with COVID, chikungunya before that, there are many more people who fortunately survived it, but regrettably now have some form of disability too. So I won't be surprised, sir, but it is not for me to guess, sir. But just yesterday, sir, and again, sir, I haven't asked for leave, sir, but I mention it. Former President of the Senate, Kerry-Ann Eiffel, GCM, sir, tremendous individual. Honor to have her serve as my deputy chairman with the committee. The two of us estimated that it could perhaps be 20,000 people in Barbados with some form of disability, sir. That's a large percentage, and when you multiply that by 2 because you're including the caregivers, sir, it's a tremendous, significant amount of the percentage of our population that are affected in some way or another by some form of disability. And this is something that a caring government cannot ignore, sir, and which this government has taken by the scruff of its neck and said, we have to change. We have to bring in a national policy to improve the lives of these people with disabilities. And the Honorable Minister who just spoke, sir, spoke about the different arms of that, sir, touching every aspect of life, because the issue, sir, is not, government is not in a silo, sir. Disabilities pertains to each and every ministry which forms the Cabinet of Barbados. And that has been finalized, final draft, sir, because coming out of the recent town hall meetings and public outreach and engagement, sir, we made a few adjustments to that document, sir. This is it, sir, 172 pages, sir, that we will go back to Cabinet again shortly. We moved some goals from medium term to short term, and some medium term to short to medium term, sir, because we can't wait, sir. The time is now to do it, to do a lot of these issues, and this is what the public is calling for during those town hall meetings. Autism was one of the major challenges coming out, sir, on each of the 3 nights, how we deal with and make life better for not only people with autism, but their caregivers as well, because as has been said, in a lot of cases, the caregivers can't work, because dealing with a child with autism is almost a full-time job. We've heard, sir, you have adults who have autism but are like children. Sir, that is the reality depending on the severity of their spectrum, and is a case where every person with autism is different. So it isn't that you could have a standard type, a blueprint for dealing with autism, sir, or autistic people. And one of the greatest fears, sir, and on the committee, sir, and it's public knowledge, sir, there were 2 members who are parents of children with autism, sir. Mr. Larry Smith, now senior counsel, sir, and Ms. Joanne Higgs, and one of their greatest fears, as is the fear of all parents of children with disabilities, is that when they die, if they die before their children, what is going to happen with their children? Who is going to look after them? In some cases, sir, the traditional way of dealing with that reality when it comes about, sir, has been to put the child in the psychiatric hospital, sir. That is absolutely unacceptable and has to be changed. And therefore, we heard the honourable member for St. Michael South just speaking about the establishment, the imminent establishment of facilities in this country. Probably have to start with only 2 that will treat to this issue, where people with children with disabilities or people with disabilities can be supervised, can be sheltered in terms of housing for autistic adults who no longer have the person who cared for them throughout their life around, sir. And we have to establish respite care facilities, and this is something that the Honourable Prime Minister speaks about. Respite care facilities for the parents and caregivers of children and people with disabilities, because they need a break, sir. As I said, I grew up with a sibling, whole of Barbados knows that, sir, who is deaf. And that is deafness, sir. That is an autism, which is a greater challenge. And caregivers need a break. They're only human. They're not machines, sir. Even machines, no. Far less the human being's body, physical and your mental and emotional stability, sir. So we look forward to the respite care facilities as well for parents and caregivers of people with disabilities as well, sir. But, sir, praise can be no little for those who deal with this issue and who have made it a commitment in their life to advance the cause not only of people with autism but people with disabilities on the whole, sir. And some members are here, sir. They've been recognized. You recognize them, Your Honor, at the start of the sit-in, sir. You know, every year, sir, every year at this time, I seek to identify a person who has served the cause of people with disabilities or who has a disability, and say to those in authority, sir, because I don't, you know, everything can't be politics, sir. So I don't like to send in the nomination myself, sir. But believe you me, I have a big say in terms of drafting, etc., in the nominations, sir, of someone who has served the cause of disabilities or someone who has a disability. Nominate them for a national award, sir. We have identified that person for this year, sir. Last year, it was Granville Carter, sir, who was successful. We were successful in his nomination for a national award, sir. Blind person, served on the committee, National Advisory Committee, sir. 6-time champion of persons at the Persons with Disabilities Blind Singers Concert, successive years, sir. And his song this year, Accessibility, won the award from the NCF for the most socially appealing song, sir. And that is what it takes, a recognition now by government departments, by ministries on the achievements of persons with disabilities, sir. Because they have the right, just like anybody else, to be recognized when they achieve excellence. But, so we have come a far way, sir, in the last 16 months. We have come a far way. The Honourable Member for St. Michael South spoke of some of the achievements, sir, of his ministry and other ministries too, sir. Transportation. We have now electric buses, 59 electric buses. All of them are accommodating to wheelchair users. So we now have parking places in Bridgetown. Believe it's only 5 by the start, sir. You have to start somewhere. The Chinese said the longest road, longest journey starts with the first mile, sir. And this is something that people with disabilities were petitioning to governments since 2014, sir, for parking spots in Bridgetown for vehicles carrying people with disabilities, sir. Well, I signed the petition, sir, and I was there, in fact, when it was presented at Government House for those parking spots. But it took 8 years for it to come through. Too long, sir. We now have summer camps for people with disabilities, sir. I visited the one at the National Disabilities Unit last month, sir. And I was glad to see 2 of my constituents there volunteering in it. This needs to be done because it has to be a whole of government approach. We now have some traffic lights at Kalamorot near the National Disabilities Unit, which are blind sensitive, sir, in terms of their signals. You heard the Honourable Member for St. Michael South speak towards the substantial increase in subventions given to some of the associations and the 60% increase in welfare over the last 5 years to persons with disabilities, sir. But we can't stand on that, sir, because the Autism Society, the Autism Association, contends that even though we have sent up the subvention to that association by 500%, sir, within the last 5 years, from $10,000 annually to $50,000, they calculate that they really need about $120,000 from government to be able to sustain itself. They've done well to be able to access funds from philanthropic Barbados as well, including the foreign trust companies like Sandy Lane Trust and Maria Holder Trust, sir, which, quite honestly, as we've said many times before in this Parliament, helped pull us through COVID. But government needs to also increase the subvention in real terms, sir. We have, sir, various ministries. Education is of primary importance, basic, sir. And we certainly support the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, sir, in her quest for educational reform. But I wish, and I'm imploring and pleading, sir, with the authorities to pull special needs out of that education reform, because special needs reform education can't wait, sir, to all the town hall meetings that are planned, sir, and to come after that, and then cabinet to decide what we're doing, education reform, sir. Special needs education needs reforming now, sir. Because we've heard too many times that you have, for example, specialists in special needs education who are not working, who are not teaching special needs children, sir. Well, that is a waste of resources, sir. And I know, sir, the Honourable Prime Minister and Honourable Minister of Education have agreed that we have to go back to carrying out diagnostic testing of children at age 3 and 4, sir, as was done when the Honourable Prime Minister was Minister of Education 25 years ago, sir. So quite honestly, I don't know how that fell through the tracks. And the Honourable Minister and Honourable Prime Minister and Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, immediate past Minister of Education, no, I'm astonished, I've told them that, as to how we were testing children in schools, every child, for diagnostic testing, autism and the hearing ability and the sight ability 25 years ago, and it fell through the cracks and somehow it stopped getting done because of funding, sir, because of money, sir. Well, that is the time, sir. If we lose these children, then what's going to happen when they get older, when you find out that they can't read properly or they can't write, sir, and then you have to spend more money on them than if you realized it at age 2 or 3 or 4, sir. And the United Nations agencies, when the National Advisory Committee met with them, said on principle, we will agree to help fund this. This is too important an issue to go by the wayside, to give either technical or financial resources to make this possible. So the Ann Hill School, which was mentioned earlier by the honourable member who led the debate, Honourable Senior Minister, sir, together with the Irving Wilson School, and they're in the same compound in the Pines, sir. I went to school side of it was then the Irving Wilson School, because my sister was going to the Irving Wilson School, and the honourable member for St. Michael's South also went to school side of those institutions, sir. They still only have primary school status. So children at those schools are age 17, sir, but they're not recognized as secondary schools. But that has to change, sir. That was another major issue coming out of the recent town hall meetings. Categorization and designation of schools treating to children with disabilities that are still primary schools. Well, the Irving Wilson School, sir, was established in 1967, sir. High time that it move up in category and that the resources be given for those children to achieve their full potential, sir. And this can be done. Well, just 2 Fridays ago, the Honourable Minister of People Empowerment would have presented prizes to children with disabilities who did very well in the 11 plus exams. The honourable member in the other place, Senator Andrely Boyce, gave the feature address, sir. One of the children going to Harrison College, sir. I know, Mayor, sir, as we know, sir, your alma mater has been the poster school for blind children, and who have done well, sir. Carrie Ann Eiffel, Janelle Odell, first blind lawyer in Barbados, also a member of the National Advisory Committee, sir. So we now seeing about Harrison College, sir, and up to yesterday, I had a report that Harrison College doing its best to try to facilitate the young students. They've reached out to the Council for Disabled and have had meetings with them on what will be the best practice now to accommodate him in Harrison College, sir. And this is important because the whole issue is that we have to, as a society, strive to bring out the full potential of each and every citizen, including those with disabilities, sir. And to get them to be able to independently live as is possible. We also, sir, have the issue of, as the Honourable Minister said, the Albert Cecil Graham Centre, sir, and this is a problem repetitively we're hearing that, look, the Albert Cecil Graham Centre only has one specialist to treat towards the speech therapy requirements of people with autism, the occupational therapy requirements, sir. And therefore, the waiting list to see this one person is long. When that one person goes on holiday, as is their entitlement, like everybody else, sir, nothing happens, sir. This has to be changed. More resources have to be given to the Cecil Graham Centre. It is important, sir, because these parents, as I said, a lot of them not working, and those who working in terms of underemployment because they can't work full-time because they have to look after the children, so they can't afford to go to the private specialists. And therefore, the waiting period, we heard in some cases, over a year, sir. So resources have to be given, and really want to make a call on the floor of this Parliament, sir, that national development scholarships have to be given, sir, to to do occupational therapy, speech therapy, that in 3-4 years' time they could come back, being bonded to the government of Barbados and work in these areas. It is paramount and important that this be so. I know some service organizations help in these causes. My Lions Club, long time ago, had started a fund, a scholarship at BCC for students who were pursuing occupational therapy or speech therapy or physiotherapy, so that they could help people with disabilities. So this has to be done, but government needs to take the lead on these issues. Sports for autistic persons is key and important because, as we all know, exercise would limit your ability to get non-communicable diseases and make you healthier. We heard earlier about the food that is so important for autistic persons. Their diets is key. And we heard at the annual general meeting of the Autism Association, of which the Honourable Member for St. Michael South mentioned, about the importance of diet to people with autism. And sports therapy is also key, sir. And again, it was commendable that the Ministry of Youth and Sports at its awards ceremony in January this year gave a youth award to the individual in Barbados who has been at the forefront of sports therapy for children, for people with autism, sir. Mr. Akeem, brother, sir. Outstanding individual. He's now come on to the Autism Association as a director, sir. And this is the reality of the situation. There can be no political divide on this, sir. There can be no political divide on it. The Honourable Member for St. Michael South mentioned about, referred to the same thing, sir. So I, for one, sir, in my capacity as chair of the National Advisory Committee, sir, and lead on the recent public outreach, was in no way going to let this issue be subject to political divide and opportunism, sir. As I see, the Child Protection Bill has been, sir, astonishingly, because the Barbados Labour Party, sir, signed the Convention on the Rights of Persons, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in May 2007. The Democratic Labour Party administration ratified that convention on the 27th of February 2013, 6 days after the general election. So both political parties agree on principle that something has to be done, sir, to bring this convention into effect, sir, and it will be brought into effect when the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, which you would have heard the Honourable Member for St. Michael South refer to, is at the stage of drafted instructions being finalised and is in final form, final draft, when the convention is attached as a schedule to that bill, sir. So, and we reached out on 2 occasions to the Democratic Labour Party, sir, as the main opposition party in this country, sir. Don't mind, they don't have any seats in this parliament on 2 occasions now, sir. They're the main opposition party, sir. And therefore, it was my duty as chairman to reach out to them, as we did twice, sir. The second time was the Thursday before crop over weekend, sir. 3rd of August. Senator in the other place, Senator Andre Boyce, and I went and met with the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party, sir, in their headquarters, having sent them, of course, the latest draft, giving them the opportunity, sir, and going through, briefing them on certain sectors, sir. And at the end of the day, the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party said, well, we can't have any problems with this, sir. We agree with this. We agree this has to come in. The president, sir, said that he wanted to make sure that emphasis was also placed on mental health, sir. And this has come up recently, sir. We know this issue has come up in terms of the mental health of a lot of our people post-COVID, etc., sir. And I subsequently responded to his concern, pointing out to him the many pages of the national policy document which prioritizes mental health, sir. And in fact, one of the adjustments we made in one of the recent amendments coming out of that, the most recent public outreach, was to move certain aspects which relate to mental health, again, from medium-term targets to short to medium-term targets. And short-term target is within the first 2 years of the institution of the policy. Medium-term is between year 3 and 5, sir. Then long-term between 5 to 7, because it's a 2023, 30. All the aspects of all provisions of the national policy can be implemented in the first year or two, but that is the reality, sir, of daily living in this Barbados, sir. The resources aren't there, so we've spread it over 7 years, sir. So there's no political divide on this issue, sir. There's consensus all around in terms of the government, the major opposition party with the government on this. Therefore, there's nothing to stop us moving forward. And because disability doesn't say today, sir, well, I can give a them this disability tonight, you know. I can spare the BLP person here. They don't work so, sir. So and in case people feel, sir, that I think, sir, I fell down on the tennis court last week, sir. Luckily for me, I just got abrasion, so hence this covering, sir. But it could have been much worse. Why? I could now have a disability, sir, break my neck, skull, lick off, sir. In a split second. I on the ground playing tennis, first time ever happened in my over 50 years of playing, sir. Why don't know? So in a split second, anybody in this country, anybody in the world could get a disability, sir. And therefore it is important for us to treat to this cause, sir. And the Honourable Minister for People's Empowerment also spoke about the difficulty in people with disabilities getting duty-free waiver for equipment that they bring in, for vehicles that they bring in, to assist them and facilitate their daily living. So, and the Ministry of Finance has to improve the way it does this business, sir. Too often I have to be emailing the authorities in that ministry, but look, XY has told me now that they had a vehicle in the port, or materials in the port for the last 6 months, can't get it out. And the Council for Disabled know this very well. So when I was in opposition MP, I had to be doing that regular, so I had to raise it on the floor of Parliament here. And after I raised it, within 2 weeks, the waiver was granted. So it shouldn't have to take me or any individual person or any member of Parliament having to intervene, sir. It should be more as of right once a set criteria is fulfilled. The person is registered, for example, as a person with disabilities at the National Disabilities Unit or with the Council for Disabled. Say, we only frustrating people, sir, when this happens. When in Guyana, sir, within two weeks, the individual has the duty-free waiver and get out the car or the equipment and make life easier for themselves. So, sir, as the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, sir, we're going to have further opportunities in the near future to speak more on issues related to persons with disabilities in a wider way as well, when National Advisory Committee's report, which I am told would come before this Parliament, sir, and then, of course, the national policy to come before this Parliament for obviously verification, sir, and authentication, so it could become national policy in Barbados for persons with disabilities. So I would have a lot more to say when that happens. But I commend this government for this resolution today, which will go a long way in assisting people in the autism community. And their parents, sir, is a small organization, but it is extremely committed. You would think there are a lot more members. I believe that there are about 90 in all. I know the Honorable Senior Minister said 60, but my understanding is that there are about 90, sir. The Council for Disabled comes in for high praise, sir. And I know, for instance, they are currently embarking on a teacher's training program for autistic children at 2 schools in this coming school year. And this is totally funded by charitable organizations. As I said, sir, praise is in no small measure for the charitable organizations that assist in this regard. And in fact, it is the charitable organizations where there is screening in schools for diagnostic testing. It is them that support and fund that diagnostic testing. But certainly, sir, as I said, this is a whole of government approach, sir, and we look forward to certainly more dialogue between the Ministry of People Empowerment and the Ministry of Education. On the one hand, the Ministry of People Empowerment, the Ministry of Health and Wellness. On another hand, sir, to try to correct some of what are the deficiencies in terms of how we treat the people with disabilities in those ministries. As I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. We've come a far way. This government has done a lot, sir, more than any other administration in this country within the last 16 months alone for people with disabilities than ever before, sir. That is the truth. I felt embarrassed as an opposition MP in this parliament between 2013 and 2018 when the last administration couldn't even bring to the floor of this parliament the resolution that I laid, private members' resolution in March 2015 to debate the need for disabilities legislation, to bring disabilities legislation, to have a time frame of 6 months, at least where you start to talk and to dialogue and communicate seriously with the stakeholders on the issue. And that administration waited till March 2018. So Parliament dissolved, and in fact, March 2018 so was past the 5-year term, so, to seek to lay in Parliament a disabilities legislation that had just got clearance, cabinet approval to bring, so when you had a whole 10 years after having ratified, rightly so, sir, the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities in February 2013, sir. So I felt embarrassed, sir, quite honestly, that there wasn't commitment of the last administration to push that forward, sir. And sir, this isn't about Edmund Hinkson, sir, or the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, sir. There's no, I don't need any praise for this, sir, because I regard this as my duty, sir. And when I got in this parliament, sir, in 2013, I called the then Minister of Social Care, the then Member of Parliament for St. Michael Central, sir, who you replaced, sir, and said, Minister, I want to join with you to bring disabilities legislation in this parliament. I want to come and talk with you, sir. And the then minister said, yes, that's fine with me. Yes, I accept your invitation. If it was one of your other colleagues, I would have told them, no, that he told me, sir. I went there, spent an hour, sir, at his ministry, gave him my commitment. I want to work with you in this. Before him, sir, I wrote the late Prime Minister, the then member for St. John, and told him, Prime Minister, I want to work with you. There was a different minister then. Then it was the Honourable, the then member for St. Michael Northwest. I sent a whole set of writings I had, and the late Prime Minister said, yeah, I thank you. I'm going to send this on to the minister, but then obviously we know ministries change. The late Prime Minister died, but you had the then member for St. Michael Central. For years as Minister of Social Care, not much was done.
Has 2 more minutes.
Thank you, sir. And this is not political. So I really appreciated the now constructed Democratic Labour Party. Don't know that it's much different in any other way. So agreeing in principle that they agree with what we're doing here today, sir. We also have a meeting with the insurance industry next week, sir, and we look forward to that because insurance is another bugbear for people with disabilities, sir. And the Financial Services Commission has read, because they're the commission that supervises insurance in this country, that they're coming as well, and they're taking it seriously, sir, because they're bringing a 4-person contingent to the meeting, sir. So progress is being made. We look forward to continued progress, sir. And we look forward to the day, sir, when we can stand in this Parliament and debate the national policy, and subsequent to that, the draft Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, sir. I'm obliged to you.